If you are the black sheep in any type of narcissistic unit or structure, and you are the scapegoat, then what tends to happen is that the whole entire group knows that you are the scapegoat. They know that you are the one that is picked on and bullied the most. And they know the main culprits that are the ones picking on you, correctly? Correct? But what tends to happen is that when the scapegoat comes around and they're expected to just put on this whole facade and be superficial and act as if everything is fine, like they're getting along well with everyone, and they basically want to put the scapegoat in the same vicinity as their abusers, and they expect the scapegoat to just sit here and act like these people didn't just abuse them the day before. When a person is constantly abused by somebody, they have dysregulated their nervous system, that person that is being abused is not going to feel safe or comfortable being around their abuser, and that's just a given fact. And for anybody to force the scapegoat to be around that abuser, you're wrong, you're an enabler, you're most likely a flying monkey, and you don't have the best interests of that scapegoat. It doesn't matter how many times you try to help that scapegoat out or try to defend them or whatever the case is. If you truly have their back, you would understand how they feel. That scapegoat does not need to be around their abuser if they do not want to. If they want to distance themselves, they don't have to. But it's wrong of other people to force the scapegoat to be the bigger person and just neglect. Basically, they want you to neglect your own emotional needs, neglect your own boundaries just to save face, just to basically keep the peace. But the thing is, everybody else is at peace except for you. Yeah, like my little, yes, I'm having fun with this. I'm studying with it. Anyway, they basically want everybody else to be at peace while you are not at peace, while your peace is disturbed, while you are at war with yourself. It's like, if you are not at peace within you, but everybody else is at peace, how is that fair? Let me give you an example. When I was in college, I pledged a sorority, and my line sisters were very abusive and narcissistic. I was the scapegoat of the group. This one time, all of us line sisters and a few other sorors, we all went out to dinner one time with one of the old head sorors, okay, an elder. So I was off charging my phone somewhere else when the rest of them had to sit down. And then once I came to sit down, it was like a couple empty seats. There was one empty seat next to the biggest abuser, and there was another empty seat in the middle. At first I sat down because that's the first seat I saw, but then I look over to my right and there's that abuser. I did not want to sit next to her, so I got up and I walked away and I went to the other side. The abuser felt very awkward and uncomfortable, and that elder that was with us, she felt uncomfortable for her. And then the elder got mad at me. Part two. Okay. Let me just break down this story just a little bit more. So when I was in college, I was in a sorority, and those sorority sisters were very, very abusive. Now, there was this one time where there was some event that we had, and afterwards, me, my line sisters, and even like a couple of other sorors, we decided to go out to eat out to dinner. And then one of the old head sorors, one of the elders that, affiliated with the university, she basically came with us as well. So you have all of these college students, and then you have one elder who's like in her 50s pretty much, right? Age gap. So what happened is that the elder, I was actually very close with her, okay? Like, I had built a rapport with her. I had really built a relationship with her, and I built a trust with her. So when she did this, she really kind of broke my trust, and I saw her so much differently. But this is what happened. So basically, when we are at the restaurant, I go off into another corner somewhere else because I need to charge my phone. And then what happens is that once everybody had sat down, it was a large table. Maybe it was about 8 or 9 of us, maybe even more than that. And we had this very long table. And when I came to the table, there were like 2 empty seats. There was one on the very end next to my biggest abuser. And then there was one on the other side of the table, sort of like towards the middle, right? Now, I'm a very tiny person. So yeah, I kind of had to squeeze through on the other side just to get over there. But it's fine. I'm okay. But what happened is basically how when I come over to the table, at first I sat down at that empty spot. I look over to my right and I see my abuser sitting right there next to me. I'm not about to sit next to my abuser the entire time we are having this meal because no, I'm not allowing her in my personal space. I'm not allowing her in my energy. I don't want her around me because if I'm in close proximity to her, I don't trust that she's going to actually be kind to me. She's probably going to be abusive. So I walked away. So it looked a little bit like this, so basically I look at her and I'm you know what, I'm actually gonna go over and sit over there. So I get up and I walk on over there and I kind of like squeeze by people and I sit over there. Now this annoyed the elder, okay, because one, she didn't like how I like kind of like scooted past everybody to get over there, and instead of just sitting right there. But this is what happened. The abuser also felt a little uncomfortable and awkward because all three of us knew that I walked away and left because I didn't want to sit next to her. We all knew she was abusive. So later on, a couple of days later, that elder talks to me when I'm in her office talking with her. And she's like, you know what, that really irritated me, how you got up and walked over to that other spot. I felt that you should have just sat there right there at that chair next to her. I understand that like you and her have your issues and stuff, but I thought that you were going to be the bigger person and just go ahead and sit next to her. Lady, you already know that this girl was abusive, and you wanted me to sit there next to her to be the bigger person and disturb my peace when her peace was not going to be disturbed. So you basically want me to be the one to sacrifice where everybody else doesn't have to. Why do I always have to be the one that's uncomfortable? No. Okay, part 3. Wasn't even expected to make a part 3. Please go watch the other 2 videos so that you can understand this, because I don't want to have to recap in this video. Okay, thanks. But anyway, what I learned from that experience as being the black sheep, also the autistic person in the group, is that when you're the black sheep, people don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your emotional or mental well-being. Because when you are the designated scapegoat, you are the designated fall guy. You are the one that everybody is okay with you being uncomfortable, you being put in awkward positions, you having to sacrifice your own self, you having to overstep your boundaries, you basically having to be the one that is not at peace so that everyone else can be at peace. And people just expect that of you because it just makes it easier. It just makes things flow a whole lot better. And what's ridiculous is how it's so aggravating how the narcissistic abusers are the ones that are always accommodated. Everyone loves to accommodate the narcissistic abuser, but they rarely do the victims and survivors of the narcissist. Because let me tell you, if things would have been different, it's almost like it's a double standard. Like if it was anybody else, it probably wouldn't have been a problem. People would understand. But when it comes to you being the scapegoat, no one wants to understand where you're coming from. And even if they do understand where you're coming from, they still disregard your feelings. They're saying, I understand you and this person have your issues. I understand that this person is abusive and picks on you. And I can understand why you may not have wanted to sit next to her. But I want you to neglect all of your feelings and emotions. And I want you to just put that on the back burner, put your emotions on the side, and just have to just suck it up and deal with it. You know what? You just go ahead and just sit there and suffer so that everyone else doesn't have to be uncomfortable. Okay? You're the one that has to sit there and suffer. Tell me how that is fair. When you break it down like that, that's really what it looks like. And in moments, we don't see the situation for what it is because it's too heavy, it's happening. But when you look back at those situations, do you realize how wronged you were? It makes you feel some type of way, right? Because it's not fair for the scapegoat to always have to be the one that has to be uncomfortable. Always have to be the one to be put in awkward positions and have everybody else just, kind of making the scapegoat uncomfortable. And they don't give a care, but the scapegoat is not allowed to do the same exact thing back to them. The scapegoat is not allowed to make them feel uncomfortable. But the thing is, people need to understand that when you are abusive to people, nobody's going to want to be around you. That whole moment that she felt when she felt that abuser felt so awkward because I got up and walked away, she should have felt uncomfortable. She should have felt awkward. That should have made her feel some type of way so that she can learn that this is what happens when you treat people like crap. People are not going to want to be around you or sit next to you.